Lifeboat Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. On the other side of the glass is my partner, Mark, Bobblehead Wagers. And tell you what, people, glad to be here tonight. Mark and I were just talking, and this is, I don't know, man, I'm really excited about this show. I really am. I was having a conversation less than a half hour ago with somebody from the boat, and the amount of feedback that we've gotten from a lot of you that talks about season 2 being considerably different than season 1 in attitude and basically in every way. First, before I get rolling though, Rip, good to see you. Scotch Sonic, good to see you. A lot of faces in the crowd. Brandon Galloway, good to see you, Brandon. Charlie Murphy is here. Alan Ballantyne, my brother, good to see you. I was actually just speaking with Alan shortly, a little while ago. Alan and I were on the phone talking, and I think it probably changed a little of tonight's show, and that's probably a good thing. But as I was saying, the season 2 seems to feel different, right? And it absolutely feels different on this side of the camera as well. Mark and I talk about it a lot. It really, hey, my brother's in the house too. Good to see you. It's different this go. This go around is definitely Seven Sun. Good to see you. It's definitely different this go around, and I think one of the reasons for that is that over time, if you come on here every single day and you talk about sobriety, you get to a point, hopefully, I think for all people, where you start to take a look at life, and you start looking at big picture stuff, because we've been on a full year. And there are a lot of people on the boat who have been sober for that entire year. There are a lot of people that have been sober far longer than that. And there are people who have been, sort of getting their bearings for that year. But wherever you're at in your journey, after a year of doing this, you really start taking a look at some of the stuff that isn't just addiction. We've done shows about this, and I think most people are in agreement that that very oftentimes the addiction is more of a symptom than it is anything else, right? There is a reason that you get high every day. There's a reason that you drink every day. And for some people, that is one reason that is really super obvious. And for some, it might be a whole host of reasons. But regardless, it's usually not just I like getting high, and the next thing you know, I was out of control. When you really start to break that down, because I believe that was me for the longest time. I thought, I don't have issues. I just have a drug problem. But the longer that I'm sober, the more that I came to realize that you have to define for yourself why you were addicted to drugs. And it's going to be, if you got 200,000 people answering that question, you'd probably get pretty close to 200,000 answers, right? Because it is such a personal thing. But if I were to say to you, what is drug addiction to you? A lot of people would have different answers to that question as well. To me, drug addiction is a lack of control, right? Just simply put, it is a lack of control, a lack of control over your substance of abuse, and more often than not, a lack of control over your life. I'm going to tell a story that I shared with my brother says he has issues. We know you do. Uh, he's famous for it. The I shared this with my bobble-headed partner yesterday, and I think I'm going to share it with the entire crew because I think it's illustrative of what we're talking about right now. So, if you remember yesterday's show, I left my house with plaid shorts and that really loud shirt that I had on yesterday, and I got to the store and I went in to grab headphones because Squirrel Nut had chewed up another set of headphones. She does this quite often. It's my fault because I need to hide them. She'll just views them as a toy and destroys them. So I didn't hide them the previous night. So I had to run out and get one. And I was really sort of fighting the clock. I went and put my headphones on and heard nothing. And when I looked down, I could see that the cord was just, decimated. So I ran up to the local store, not like a Walmart or something like that. I actually ran to a 7-Eleven because I know they sell headphones and they're very close to where I live. And when I got there, I didn't have my credit card because we had just spent a ton of money at a watch auction. I had thrown it at my partner and said, "Hey, if you decide to go this way instead of wiring the money, here's a credit card for half of it or whatever." And so I got up there and I picked up the headphones, and I wasn't anywhere near the checkout or anything else. I went into my pocket to get the card out to pay for it, and the card wasn't there. And I want to tell you something. This is a true story. I looked around the store. I saw no one. And my first thought was, I could wahoo this and go out the door. No one's going to see me do this, right? I have stolen things 200,000 times in my life. And honestly, people, my first thought was, I'm going to grab this. I'm just going to steal it. And the for me, right, this is something that was such an ingrained part of me for so long that honestly, it's the first place my head went. I'm never going to make this back to the house in time to get on the boat and have the headphones. I'm just going to grab these. There's nobody looking. There's nobody. And then, like a ton of bricks, I was like, what the hell am I thinking? Everything in life is perfect and I could derail it just so easily. But my life was a lack of control. In the past, my impulse control was non existent. And this is not unique to me as a drug addict. Most people who are addicted to drugs have no impulse control, right? The things that you do. There was a time, and I may have told this story on the air before, but I left a fence. Do you know what a fence is? I don't mean the something that divides your property from your neighbors. I mean somebody that buys stolen property, right? They call a fence, and if you steal something worth $100, the fence will give you 40, right, or 30. This is what they do, and they have a little store that they run full of stolen stuff. But you can take anything to a fence, and they usually will buy it. And I had left the fence once, and it was getting very close to 7:30. And at that time, you couldn't buy heroin after 7:30 at night. It just wasn't an option, right? They closed down at 7:30 because as it gets dark, people tend to rob drug dealers. So they would shut down at 7:30, plain and simple. And so I went to the fence and said, "Hey, I've got," and I brought some stuff that I had stolen. And he's like, "Man, you bring this every day. I've got, 200 of these." I said, "Well, what do you need? Because I'm running out of time. I had like an hour left." And he said, "I need a concrete saw." A concrete saw, right? Not a radio or, bikes would be good. A concrete saw seemed very a difficult thing. They're very large. I don't know if you've ever seen one, but they have a blade on them that is literally about that big, right? And it almost looks like a chainsaw, but it has a very uh, big circular saw on it that might be 18 to 20 inches across. They're very, very heavy. And I said to him, "Oh, come on, man. There's got to be something else because this is not going to be an easy thing for me to get." And um, he's like, "No, really, right, that's what I need right now. But if you can find one of those, I got cash waiting for you." And I drove off looking for a plan B because this obviously wasn't going to work. And I got to an intersection where there was a worker in the middle of the street cutting concrete. Now, this man had a saw that was about the size of a car. I'm not exaggerating, that you walk behind this massive, huge device that, had it was self propelled, and it was just, I'm not kidding, about the size of a car. It's absolutely huge. But right behind him, maybe a foot behind him, was a concrete saw, exactly what the fence wanted. And people, I needed heroin. There was not a split second that my brain thought this is a really bad idea. There were, the fact that he's cutting in the middle of an intersection meant two or three lanes were shut down. So all three lanes had to come into one. So there were cars backed up a quarter of a mile. I'm going to steal this saw with, I don't know, 700 witnesses. And I'm going to do it in the middle of broad daylight, in the middle of a street. It was hands down one of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life. But the person I was with, I said, "Don't move." And I jumped out of the car and I walked into the middle of the intersection and I picked the saw up and I just started walking away. And this person is pushing a very, very large machine that made a lot of noise and he had headphones on it. Every car there started beeping the horn. And I'm sure probably 80% of them started calling 911. But I ran with this big saw and managed to jump over a split rail fence. And I ran behind a store where my friend had pulled the vehicle. And looking back on that incident, the lack of any kind of control, right, over logic or impulse or anything. This was my life in a nutshell. The inability to have any control over anything that I did. And this translated down to virtually every single part of my life. I didn't have control over the truth. I didn't have control over my emotions, right? If I was in a situation, and this was up until very recently, right, even years into my sobriety, if I was in a situation and a tire went flat, or you can't get the headphones to work or the microphone to work, my bobbleheaded partner is a saint. I know that he would look at me and go, "Oh God, here we go." You know, Tommy is about to explode like a hand grenade, and I'm going to have to put up with it. And you know, God bless Mark. He's got a great attitude and a good sense of humor. As season two has been different in a lot of ways, and I'm working on who I am. I don't have to work on being sober anymore. It's not something that I really need to work on. I'm blessed in that part of my life is very solid. So I'm working on control over every aspect of my life. And if you could see me when the cameras aren't running, then you would notice a lot of things that are different because Mark sees me when you people don't. And so yesterday we were talking, it might have been the day before, but we were talking about, the change in the show and the change in me. And Mark said, "I got to tell you a story real quick." He said last season we were filming a show, and I don't remember exactly what was wrong, but it was a piece of equipment that was not working correctly, and I had to run from the office upstairs to get another piece of equipment, and I didn't turn off the piece of equipment that I was using. So you have to picture what my bobbleheaded partner could see on his screen, right? He saw my right foot, my right knee, the stairs, right? The wall, the ceiling, the stairs, right? As I sort of held this thing like you would a football, running up the stairs, the entire time cursing him as if this was not somebody that I cared deeply about. This dumb SOB, because obviously it had to be somebody's fault. And sure as heck wasn't going to be mine, right? Nothing's my fault. So, uh, he never mentioned to me that this happened until a couple of days ago. And he said, I wasn't mad at you. In fact, I got a pretty good laugh out of it. But if you don't have control over talking like that about somebody that you really deep down love, then where are you in your life? You understand what I'm saying? The inability to control your emotions, the inability to control anything may be the saddest thing to watch on the planet. I mean, that's the truth. I was talking with Alan about this a minute ago. Well, about an hour ago now, I guess. But I recently went to a sort of a like a dinner party, and we were eating dinner, and my business partner was with me, and I have talked about this person whose house I'm at before because this was the person I helped build the deck for. This is the person whose dog I babysit on a very regular basis. Super nice guy, and he and his wife go to the same church I do. I love them. They're great people. And but while we were there and just enjoying the evening, they have built onto the deck that I helped build. They have built a little window so that you can hand things from the kitchen to the outside. Super convenient, very, very cool. Big open area type thing. So right from the sink right to the outside. And we had carried over the everything from the appetizers, right, and set it down over there. And they were having cocktails, and they had these glasses that were really kind of unusual. They went up and sort of took a left-hand turn, right? They like a leaning tower of Pisa type thing, where from the bottom it's kind of funny. It looks like the glass is buzzed, like it's leaning and it wants to fall or whatever. And in the process of getting this off of the table into the sink, she dropped it. No big deal, right? No cry over spilt milk. It's just a glass. But this glass hit the ground, and this man exploded. And I mean, the type of exploded that this guy did was one of the most uncomfortable scenes that I can remember in the last couple of decades of my life. He cursed and I can understand, maybe the glass means the world to you. Maybe it was given to you by, somebody. I can understand being really bummed out, but for lack of a better way to break down language and everything else, for all intents and purposes, he was calling his wife of 60 years an idiot. All right. It was actually a lot nastier than that, but I'm giving him the benefit here of saying that he was calling her an idiot. And it was not, what did you do, you idiot? It continued. And this continued for about 30 or 40 seconds. And my partner jumped up and started cleaning up the glass because it's just one of those really uncomfortable situations. And you don't want to be sitting there just sort of looking at it. And everybody tried to get involved in somehow of making this better. And I walked away from that with a profound sense of, I don't know, discomfort. And the takeaway from that was not what a jerk this guy is, right? Because whatever, the takeaway was, this is who I've been for how long? You know what I mean? Like this really is the person that I've been. I'm the guy that just
like an out of body experience, almost
like
watching
an
yourself.
correct. Like
Yeah.
I started thinking back to just how many times did I lose it the way that this person is losing it. And then, like I said, when Mark brought up what I did the other day, he did it, with a laugh, Tommy, this was funny stuff. And I laughed, I thought it was really funny. And when the show was over and he said good night, it wasn't funny anymore. You know what I mean? I sat there and I thought that's who I am, or that's who I was. And I spent decades. How many people have a story of me acting like an ass? Right? How many people have a great story of me not having the ability to control myself over a flat tire, or not having the ability to control myself over insert your favorite, stress moment there. Yeah, any of them work, right? Any of them work. So this is where uh, this is where I find myself, and it got me thinking about what sobriety means to me now, because sobriety no longer means not doing dope. It's crazy, right? But it did for 4 or 5 years, because the first maybe 3 to 4 years for sure, I was in shock, right? This was my normal facial expression. I'm not kidding. It was this one here, right? I'm not high. Like, I got through a day without doing drugs. This was staggering. One of the reasons that this is such a big deal for me, one of the reasons that not doing the lifeboat isn't an option, right, is because this forces me to focus. on aspects of my life. And it's difficult to come on here and suggest things to people in terms of ways to live a better existence, not on drugs, and then turn around and rage 5 minutes later. Now, when I find myself starting to lose it, I'm like, you jackass, right? I instantly realize where I'm at. I may or may not have told this story, but I know that I told Mark, if you have a lawn, right, in any kind of a modern house, there's a really good chance you have a little concrete thing that says water, right? And underneath it is access to the water to the house, or there's probably another one for phone. There's another one for cable, right? All of these things. Well, when you lay down an artificial lawn, you gotta basically bring that lawn right up to that. Okay, well, in order to put down a lawn, you got to put about 3 or 4 inches of crushed granite and pack it down and roll it flat. So now you've got these things that dip in. Well, that doesn't work. So I had to raise those things. And the first one took me about 3 hours to dig around and figure out a way to get that up, right? To rise that thing to where I could work with it. And today, when I went out to finish the last part of the lawn, I went, ah, oh, no, there's another one, right? And this one, I have to do the exact same thing. But I got through both of these situations without losing it. And to give you an idea of just who I was and who I'm becoming, someone who knows me really well said, I cannot believe you did that without losing your mind, which is bittersweet. It's great that people are noticing that, but it's just such a shining spotlight on the ass I have spent the majority of my life being. So as you start getting into the second season here on the lifeboat, take a really good hard look at your sobriety, right? I promise you I'm doing the same thing. Take a good hard look at your sobriety and start analyzing the things in your life that you have control over, right? Like love, hate, anger, jealousy, right? All of these different things. And where are your weak spots? See, I've done really well. Even when I was a lunatic, there were certain things I had amazing control over, for real. Not a jealous person. I've done, I mean, almost to a fault. I just have never been that guy. I never seem to have had a jealous gene. When someone says, you know, yeah, your wife is really, something like, back in the day, I'd be like, ah, thanks. It was never one of those things that sort of made me feel like there was some threat there in any way. And there were parts of me that were pretty normal. My big problem was patience. If anything got in the way of me, of what my plan was, right? Whether that plan is driving somewhere or anything else, I instantly just imploded. And start analyzing these things. And I think as you work on them, one of the things that you'll notice is this makes a whole lot of sense in terms of what was driving you to be who you used to be, right? My inability to take things that weren't part of the grand scheme of things are one of the reasons I continue to do drugs. There's no doubt in my mind.
I'm gonna step in here for just a second.
Uh-huh.
There's a really good conversation going on in here with Rip and Noise Opera. I think you missed the first initial comment, so
Okay.
I'll read it. It
Please
says,
do.
this comes from Noise Opera. It says, I stole $140 worth of meat from a store one time, threw everything in a cart, walked out. I stuffed everything in bags, which I had in my backpack, and split the meat between myself and two family members. And then that was 10 years ago. We spent all our money on drugs back then and didn't have any food. And then, of course, Rip being the person he is, says, I am so sorry you were in the position you had to do that. I could totally relate. When I was grounding up, my dad called it getting firewood. So we would go out in the woods. So yeah, I mean, they're helping each other in there, and they're saying exactly what you're saying. It's
Well, and you know something, I think it's and I was having this conversation with Alan. I think that when sobriety really starts working for you, I think that when this stuff goes from look at this, I'm not getting high to I'm living my best life, is when you start keeping really short accounts with yourself, right? To come on here and say 3 times in prison, all of the things that, I've overcome in the last little bit. And I thought, I'm going to stick these earphones down my shorts. Um, I don't know if there's ever been a time in my life, honestly, where I thought I'm going to do this and then jammed on the brakes. Like impulse control, this is a brand new concept for me. As stupid as that sounds, or as illogical as that sounds, this is a brand new concept for me. And even after, like Marcus said before, when lying becomes such a part of you that you find yourself getting ready to tell a lie for no apparent reason, right? You're not backed into a corner, you're not anything, but it might just be a little easier than the truth, right? There are times that someone will say, "Hey, what are you doing this afternoon?" And if you tell them what you're doing this afternoon, there are going to be 15 questions associated with it. I might not be doing anything wrong, but I'm getting ready to lay down an artificial lawn in the front. Really, how does that thing? And you just think, I don't really feel like getting into that conversation. So when this person asks me what I'm going to do this afternoon, I'm going to say nothing, right? They're small as hell, right? It's no big deal, is it? Right? But if it's behavior that you've spent your whole life doing, I would be very careful about dabbling in lying or dabbling in dishonesty or dabbling in any such crap, right? I have a family member here in town and they picked up a watch that was on the desk and they said, "What happened to this?" I said, I told the woman that I sold it to that the crown, right, the thing on the watch, you have to keep that wound down when you go underwater. If you don't, it allows a ton of water to flow into the watch. I said, even after telling this individual that, 5 days after I sold them the watch, they called me and said, "I just went swimming with that crown not wound down. What's going to happen?" Nothing good. That's the answer, right? A lot of bad things are about to happen to your watch. So it was my sister, and she said, "So what are you doing? Are you trying to fix it?" I said that it can't be fixed. I mean, the amount of damage, it's not that kind of watch. There's a reason it has a screw down crown. It's going to cost more money to fix than the watch is worth. And she said, "Well, then why do you have it and she doesn't?" Because we gave her money back. And I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm telling you this because I've reached a point. There has never been a time in my life where I would have given that person money back. I would have gone, "Screw you. You didn't screw the crown down. I told you to screw the damn crown down." But I said, "Send it back to me and I'll see if I can fix it." Well, when we couldn't, we just said, "Listen, we're going to refund you the money. And I'm going to try to locate the same watch because this is the one that she likes. And when I come across it, because I will, we buy a lot of watches, then I'll sell it to her." We had a decent markup on it. But these are the kind of things now that happen that I go, it's just not who I am. Or maybe it is, but it certainly isn't who I was. And I think that going forward for me, um, it's not about not getting high anymore. It's about trying to be the best human being I can be. For me, I'm not mad at you if in the same situation you say, "Screw you, you didn't screw down the crown." It doesn't make you a bad person, but have a plan for exactly who that person's going to be,
Yep.
right?
I think,
Because, but
I think sometimes we make, and we don't even realize we've made that switch. We switch from, trying to learn from our mistakes, and then that it'll flip the switch the other direction, and you start learning from other people's mistakes. So
right,
you're observing what other people are doing, especially in the addiction recovery world and stuff, and you're seeing what works for them. And if you can get yourself to a place where you're not looking so much inward and you're actually looking at what's going on and how they've handled it, that can really truly help you. And that's a big step. And I think a lot of times, it comes with the patience and being humble. And that's something that is not a given trait, guys. That's something you have to learn. And you're not going to learn that unless you're watching somebody else. That is one of those few things that you have to learn it by actually seeing it happen. And I prided myself as a child, not as a child, but growing up, I was able to learn from a lot of mistakes that other people were doing, and it kept me out of a whole lot of trouble. Most people know that I didn't become an addict until I was 30. I was in my 30s before I even did any kind of opiates, and of course it was injury related. But I look back on it, and I had an awesome awesome childhood. I mean, it really was. I mean, my parents were great. I knew I was loved. They loved me a lot, and I felt that, And but I was an only child, right? Till my sister came along 17 years later. So, and I've told that story here too. But I was able to, I had enough time for myself that I was able to look and watch, because my dad jumped from job to job, and it wasn't like he was without jobs, okay, because he always had one, but he was
Right.
exactly what you were talking about, and this is why I'm bringing this up, because his mouth got him into a lot of trouble because he couldn't stop it, and so I seen that, and I knew the kind of stress it put on me and my mom, when we had to, go back and live with my grandparents because dad had just lost his job, or, just things weren't very stable, and it caused a lot of friction in our house between those two, and obviously I felt that. I was there. I watched my dad throw a coffee table across the room, stuff like that. And and what I'm saying is that we've all done this. I know I have. I used to punch walls when I got mad, until I figured out I'm the one that had to fix it. So
Right.
I quit doing it. And,
Right.
and again, that's a learned trait, but
But you weren't going to put your family through the same things that you watched. Learning
exactly.
from other people's mistakes is honestly, not only is it genius, but I think it's one of the rarest things that happens in humanity. Because another comment that just got me. I saw that my brother said, "No one ever lied to me more than I did." Right? I'll be really honest. I might have lied to him more than he did. And that's the truth. As sad as that is, but there is something to be said for great example. There was my brother's significant other was a professional photographer, and I remember stealing a Hasselblad camera from them, very expensive camera, and I would be, I don't remember how little I got for it, but it was probably a day or two, worth of drugs for a really one of the best pieces of camera equipment on the planet. And I remember staring him right in the eyes and saying, "I didn't take that." And that's sort of the nature. I think sometimes, like watching I Am the Noise Opera, admit that this is what I did. I went back and I did this thing. It's important that we own these things. It really is. It's super important that you own these things, as long as you don't live in them. You know what I mean? As long as it's not something that is a a full time. It's easy to wallow. It's easy to honestly get to the point where instead of just saying what I did was awful and I'm learning from it and I'm moving on, you get to be the person that you ever meet one of those people where every time you talk to them, they just talk about what a reprehensible human being they were. I think the idea is that you accept and you move on, right? Those things should, when you think back to those memories, they should be you know what? I'm never going to forget what I was. I'm never going to forget where I came from, but I sure as hell I'm not that person now. And the person that I am now, I am proud of. I think that probably should be the goal. Hey, we love you too, bud. We really do. I don't know if you guys can hear that. No, no, it's a baby about this big, and he's the happiest.
He's
He is
having a
the
hard time.
actually that's believe it or not, that's giggling.
Oh,
I think he's
really?
having probably, yeah, I'm sure that it's probably squirrel nut that the kitty that he's looking at that's giving a whole lot of laughs,
That's
but
awesome,
because
man.
squirrel bailed out of the basket to go check out the little kid, so that very well might be what it is.
That's awesome, though.
Joanna W says, I also watched my mom sit alone in the Florida room with her wine, listening to music and crying. Of course, she didn't know I was watching. Didn't know I was watching her, but even as a young girl, I knew why she was crying. People, there's been a lot of talk in the comments tonight about relationships and whether or not you ever get to a point. There's a lot of people saying, you know what, I'm kind of happier alone. I think that that's an evolution, and I think it's part of sobriety, and I think it's healthy. I really do. I think that um, once you get to that point, this is my opinion. You can tell me I'm an idiot. I'll be happy to listen to that. But I think that you get to a point in your life where um, once you say I'm fine alone, I really am. I'm completely good on my own. I'm comfortable on my own. I can live like this. when you get to that point and you're comfortable, that's usually when that other person is going to end up popping up. We as addicts, at least me for sure, that um, I had to have somebody there, and for the sleaziest and most rotten reasons, not because I needed comfort, or I just needed someone to take advantage of, and I would never have been able to articulate that at the time. But when I look back at the people that I was with, and I swear to you, this was not something that I did intentionally, but I targeted people that were very successful. Lawyers, people that ran companies, or whatever the case may be. Because for me, um, my entire life was coming up with tons of money on a daily basis. So I started to target individuals that were going to help make that happen. And yeah, when you get to a point where you're not thinking about those things and you become comfortable in your own skin, that in and of itself is a milestone. It really is. When you no longer have to have somebody there, um, then chances are you're becoming comfortable in your own skin. And again, people, season two, it should get to a point where you're transitioning out of, my God, I got to make sure I never do drugs again, to I'm going to design this new person. Right? We've had arguments on this show from other people, and whether or not you become a new person, or whether or not you get to be a better version of yourself, or what, that's word games, that's semantics. Call it whatever you want, but design that new version of you, or design that new person, or whatever. Yesterday we talked about family, and this is another thing that Alan and I talk about a lot, because I think we share the fact that we really have a real understanding for just how blessed we are to have our family back in our lives and caring about us, especially with all of the damage that we've done. It's it's such an honor, right, to have that family and to have that back. But it's the same type of it's the same type of thing, where once you start to appreciate all of the things that sobriety brings you. Does that make sense? There, in the beginning, it's that shocked face. It's that, holy crap, I'm not on drugs, right? And then you start to realize that the payouts. I think Alan said it yesterday, and it really kind of got my attention. Is that the one of the greatest gifts of sobriety is that you have the opportunity to get back those relationships and start to rebuild this into something that's really, really healthy. Um, and when you really start to get a handle on, excuse me, on what this means to be sober, then sobriety takes on an entirely different meaning, right? The holy God, I'm not loaded thing translates into, look at what this is bringing me, right? Look at what this is bringing in my life. As I said yesterday, you know what? I took a paycheck. My business is actually becoming something that can support me. If I never made a dollar, I'm I'm playing with watches all day, right? This is something that I have had such a passion about since I was 12. All day, every day, I'm surrounded by things that I absolutely love. And it's really funny because for the first time in my life, the only thing that I wasn't concentrating on when I started this business was how much money I could make. In everything I've ever done and people I've done,
And that's
we
why
did
it
an
worked.
infomercial.
That's why it's working.
Correct, right? Yeah, I mean, because I was talking to someone the other day who said it took me 30 some odd years to realize that being rich had nothing to do with money. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I did an infomercial once, and people have pulled this out and shown it on different sites before to talk about what a low life I am. The funny thing is, I had already told the whole world about that infomercial, and believe it, that infomercial ripped off a lot of people. Make no mistake, I never said it didn't. I've been very, very open and honest about the person I used to be, but that infomercial did 58. It's either 58 or 68 million dollars, right, in less than a year and a half. So the amount of money that was done in sales through that was staggering. And I didn't care what we were selling. I didn't care about anything. I just wanted to know what the possible payout was going to be. And that was my life. because, again, no impulse control. It always came back to, is this going to take care of my dope habit?
Right.
Well, this time around, it really became a, you know what? If you could do it all over again, what would you do? I'd play with watches. Nothing makes me happier. That's what I would do. And oddly enough, I can make a living doing this. But I think that it it really stems from this whole, what do you want to be and who do you want to be? If you don't have a handle on exactly who you want to be, then you probably didn't spend a ton of time in the first season listening to us, right? Because the idea was, make a list, make a list of all of the reasons you got to get off that poison. Make a list. And for a lot of us, that list is names more than it's reasons, right? My daughter, my dad, my mom, whatever. You make that list, and then you make a really honest list of just what a dirtbag you are. What characteristics do you have that you want gone? Remember this, right?
Yeah.
The 3 steps. And then the third one was, who do you want to be? Who if you could just wave a magic wand, and what would be the adjectives that people would describe you as? Honest, trustworthy, right? All of those things. Well, make that list. And then when you start to work toward becoming those things, it's because dope is no longer like, Mark and I were talking right before we went live, and he said, when you do medical assisted therapy, there's baggage that comes along with medical assisted therapy, right? Medical assisted treatment is going to be bring people along that go, so you're just trading one drug for another. First of all, anytime someone says that, you betcha, right? That's exactly what I did.
Yep.
I traded one drug for another. Hell of a trade, too. I mean, for real, like
Best
Nolan
trade you ever
Ryan
made.
for Jim. Correct. The best trade in the history of trades. There when Nolan Ryan was traded for Jim Fregosi, this is a better trade, right? There's never been a better trade. So, but there's baggage that goes along with it. And we were talking right before we went live today that both of us have to set an alarm to remember to take the medical assisted, treatment. Suboxone is something that if we don't set alarms for, we'll both forget to take it.
Yep.
To have something in your life that people, I don't know about you guys, but for 3 decades, I only had one thought. How frightening is that? But that's the truth. I mean, once I got high, maybe I'd think about what we might watch on TV, or, did we want to drink today? But the first thought always was, that drug.
Yeah.
My brother says the worst trade in baseball history. It was a pretty bad.
I want to add something. I want to add something here too, John, Tommy, if I could. I think that when we get into like recovery and we're talking about, past the first stage is kind of what we're talking about, maybe even past the second or third stage of where how we grow. And I think that, we start looking at things, and then I think what happens is, at least in my mind, some fear creeped in. And you're probably saying, what kind of fear are you talking about? Well, now we've gotten ourselves into a positive position, and now we have something to lose, which we didn't have nothing to lose when we were at the bottom of the barrel. And that's why we had such a clear focus goal. That was the only goal that we had. There was nothing else there to work towards. Now, once we got our moment of clarity, we're set back, we've done what we're doing, and we've made it past a little bit, further down the line. And it does become about that a little bit. You start forgetting to take your medications and stuff like that, where beforehand, you were waiting. You were looking at the clock. When can I take my medication? And,
no question.
And at some point, your brain just, it flips it on, man. It really does. And sometimes you don't even know it's happening until somebody else might actually point it out. The first time I forgot, my wife said, "Hey, have you taken your medication today?" No. Okay, well, let's go over here. I guess I'll go take it, because I know, you got to take that stuff. I'm not going to get into that subject tonight, but I do think that we start to build, especially when we're building back. And I'm not talking about material things here, guys. I'm talking about relationships. Okay, because you start building back those relationships, and you get rid of all the lying, and you come clean on everything, and that's the first step. We talked about that yesterday. But I think further on down the road, you start to realize, and it can scare you because you didn't have this before, right? You got something to lose now, and before you didn't. and you're like, oh my gosh, and it can make a person really, really nervous, anxious, and fearful about pressing forward. That is not a good emotion, okay? Because it can lead you right back to what you were doing. Because we all know the way to fix those kinds of things immediately is to go back to doing what we were doing. And
Right.
we're not going to do that, because you're already in a place in your life where you've made it past all that initial, like, especially like physical stuff and all that stuff. Now it's the mental game, which is where the game is won at. And, so we start looking at that, and it's something I've experienced, and I know that a lot of people here probably aren't there yet. I get that. But just know, don't be afraid to feel that. Don't be afraid, because it can actually, you can turn that into a positive. Now you have something to work at keeping. It's going to keep you busy. It's going to keep you, you start to realize how good life actually can be.
Right.
And I'm sorry that's an emotion that actually that creeps into you, that, I got something to lose here. But that's telling you that you're putting value now on relationships, and you weren't doing that
No
before.
question. No question. And that's a really it's a great point. It really is. The takeaway from tonight more than anything else, and I'm looking forward to this being in the can 24 hours so I can go read the entire live chat, because what I have caught of the live chat today, the live chat, um, I feel like it's literally exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
If you were to take this chat and go back a year, right, and compare it to the chats a year ago, it's no longer the majority of what is happening in the chat is no longer just the day to day. I got to get through the next 8 hours. Now we're really seeing individuals start talking about some really heavy stuff, and it really is sort of what I think the dream of the second season is.
Yeah.
I hope that this is always something that will continue, because I believe that um, watching everybody progress about the same way as the show itself is progressing, um, it's beautiful stuff. It really is. The number of people that have said, um, you know, I got emails that I'd love to read. There was one that was talking about my bobbleheaded partner in particular, who just said, you know what? He seems 500 more times engaged this season than last season. And my response, because I'm probably more of a wise guy than anything else, I said, well, maybe I just shut up long enough this season to let him talk. But the point, I mean, I get what the individual is saying, and I think what it really comes down to is uh, a sobriety channel where you talk about nothing other than not using. You can wrap that up in about 4 months.
Yep.
You will have exhausted virtually everything that you can talk about, and I think that this entire crew and this show and the two of us are evolving, and I'm glad that
Well,
really.
in season one,
Go
Tommy,
ahead.
didn't we? We used to say this a lot. We haven't said it in a while, and maybe we should. We really try not to do white knuckle sobriety, because that's really what it goes back to. If you got to move past that, and I think that a lot of us are past that, at least to the point where we're working towards one knuckle at a time, maybe, and those kinds of things. And when we're talking about white knuckle sobriety, guys, for any of the new people, what I'm saying there is, we're trying to live our best life, not just be sober.
Right.
And white knuckle, we all know what that means, I hope, when you're driving. That's where they get that from. You're grabbing hold of that wheel real tight because you don't want to wreck, right? And your
Exactly.
knuckles turn white and stuff. And people live their whole lives like that. And I felt myself doing it. And I know Tommy felt himself doing it at some points. And and this is where you can learn from our mistakes, is what I'm trying to say. We're out here talking about it. We're telling you guys, hey, this is what's happening. If you know other people that have been fighting addiction in your own life, watch what they're doing. Just look at them, because they're all going to be in a different stage of wherever they're at. and it's never not going to keep changing. You know, the only thing that stays the same is everything changes, right? And that's what the song said.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's gospel truth. And you know, and unfortunately sometimes, and fortunately sometimes, we have to do that with it. We have to roll with that.
Miss Hermit Hill, Kentucky. Did you happen to catch this?
I didn't see it. Go
He
ahead.
said the boat is kind of like a class in school, seeing the growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. We all have growing to do.
Well said.
Booyah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
Well said.
that's there it is, people. I mean, honestly, that's it.
Yep.
That's it in a nutshell right then. And I think, by the way, Cemetery, congratulations, my brother. He says, I'm still sober, 10 and a half months from alcohol. That is a long time. Rip Curl says, Vicky Brook, you are not alone here. Shame can be a hard one, but the fact you feel that way means that you're a good person. Truly bad people don't feel shame or regret. So don't be so hard on yourself. What a great point. What a great point. He's right. Bad
Yep.
people do not feel those emotions.
They don't.
People that truthfully are evil and we beat ourselves up whilst feeling guilty should tell you a lot about who you are, right? And Rip, great point, Rip.
And,
really a great point.
And you know, M Hunt said, you know, when I was talking earlier, said, "Well said, Mark. I feel that way right now." So that's telling me and Tommy that you guys are resonating with what we're talking about. This whole chat tonight, I've been watching it. And I know Tommy has too. Has really been
awesome.
It's been a good thing there because, you know, that's one of the way we gauge ourselves, guys. We talk about some things after the show and stuff, but when we see you guys that are engaged, there's a couple things that we see, and this is the inside baseball stuff that we said we were going to share with you guys from now on.
Yep.
You know, when we're talking about something and the chat slows down, right, to almost like a crawl, and you're wondering, well, did people get mad and leave, or what's going on here? And there's one way to tell. You look down at how many people are watching, and if that number is either growing or staying nearly the same, that means most people that are in the chat are completely engaged in what we're talking about because they're trying to listen and not type. So that's one way that we tell, and it's awesome when we see that kind of a thing because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help. And so I just wanted you guys to know that because you can do the same too. If you see the chat slow down and look down at the watch number, if it's not moving or growing, then you know everybody in here is really paying attention to what's going on. So, and I get it if it's not always that way. I mean, that's not what I'm saying.
No. We got you, Vicky. You know what? Thank you for still being here. Because Vicky says, "Thank you, Tommy, for starting again." You know what? I can't take a thank you for that. I really can't. We needed this more than you did, and we're just really, really happy to be back. And I think it was such a huge thing to take some time off because, you know, you don't know what you got until it's gone. And we had an opportunity to see what it was like when it was gone, and neither of us were particularly happy.
Right.
You know, this is a very essential part of our sobriety and our growth, as much as it is anyone else's. Probably way more so. I mean, honestly. But what a great comment section tonight.
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait till tomorrow night. I really can't. We're just about at the top of the hour. You know, I type this every day, but I love this boat. I really do. And all of you on it. This is it really is an amazing thing. It's
and I want to add this too, guys.
Yeah.
You know, when we did take our vacation, you know, both of us were getting hit up from crew. And I can't tell you how much better that it just made my life better that way. You know, just a simple, hey, you know, every day Flaming, I love you, man. He'd send me some sort of a GIF or something, you know what I'm saying? Some sort of little video and just keep me laughing and stuff. Because it was hard for me and Tommy to not be here, I think. It just really was. Even though we knew we needed to do it, we didn't know what was going to happen, and we're not getting that conversation. But at the same time, you guys were still there even when we weren't. And
yeah,
that's big for me, guys. It really is. That touched me more than anything ever. Because you guys didn't have to be, and you chose to do it. So I mean, it really does. And I have to say this: it motivates us.
No question.
because we don't want to do this for
Absolutely
no
no question.
reason. You know what I mean? So we need that motivation just like everybody else, and you guys provided that most definitely. So thank you.
Yep. And like I said, we are at the top of the hour. Lady Crispin, good to see you. You know what? Lady Crispin reached out after the foul fish. I believe it was 2 days. In 2 days, it will be a year. Time flies, doesn't it? Time absolutely
I
flies.
can
Alrighty.
we can show that little short clip in our video or in the live stream tomorrow if you want.
Yeah, well, you know what? We might have to to do a little clip of me retching, I guess. Alrighty, everyone. Yeah, this was a great show. And you know what? As so often is the case, not because of this, but because of that. You guys and your the comment section has just been absolutely amazing. Greatest audience in all of YouTube. No apologies.
Yes.
It's a fact.
Yes.
Alrighty, everyone. We will see you tomorrow night. God bless all of you. Truthfully, I love this boat. I really do. I am Captain Tommy Scoville on the other side of the glass.
Mark Wages.
And my cat is entertaining a 5-month-old child, apparently. So she's pulling double duty. Good cat. All right, we love you. We'll see you tomorrow night. God bless.